Hey everyone, so really quick before we get into the video, I have to give a really important shout out. I want to give a massive thank you to Ian Michael T640 who gave me a $5 super thanks on my video about cat dog seeing the end of the world. They're the first person to give me a super thanks, and I just wanted to say that I appreciate that so much. I turned that option on a few months back and never really said anything because I don't want to push, and honestly I don't want anyone to feel pressured to donate, but I can't tell you how much I appreciate your kindness. It's an honor to be able to share my videos with you guys, and I'm so thankful for you clicking on this video and for being a part of my YouTube journey. I'm not going to sit here and push the super thanks every video, but if you want to support me directly and get a shout out as well, feel free to buy one. When I first started my Dark Side of Hey Arnold series, I knew that it was going to be a long journey. I knew that I wanted to pick through these characters with a fine-tooth comb. There was one piece of the puzzle that I had a really hard time figuring out when planning this series though, and that would be the Christmas episode. You know the one that I'm talking about. Ever since the inception of the Dark Side of Hey Arnold, I've had numerous people in the comments requesting that I cover this episode, and I've honestly struggled to figure out how to do it. I thought about including it in a video about Mr. Wynn, or maybe another intense video that I have planned later on in the series, but the thing is, this episode encompasses so much more than just one character. I feel like I could have included this one in my video about Helga because it shows a lot about her true character, but then again, it focuses around Mr. Wynn, so I feel like it should be in a video dedicated to him. But then again, Arnold does the brunt of the heavy lifting in this episode. Ultimately, it felt like this episode needed a video of its own. There's just so much for us to unpack here, and I feel like lumping this episode in with a video talking about other episodes just wouldn't do it justice. This episode is one that is truly different than the rest of the series, and I feel like it deserves to stand on its own and get its own video. Outside of where to put it in the series, I also struggled to talk about this episode because I've already done it before. Years ago I made a video about Nicktoons Christmas specials, and this one was included in it. However, when I made that video, my audience was like 1/16 the size of what it is now. It's interesting to look back at that video because the way I tackled things was a lot different back then. I'll link that one down in the description box below so you can check it out after this one if you want. In the background, I've been working very hard on the next true 1 to 3 hour Dark Side of Hey Arnold video, and it's coming along amazing, but in the meantime, I figured we could use one more holiday interlude in the series, considering that we had one for Halloween back in October. That's why today, on our nostalgic walk down memory lane, we're gonna look at what I would claim to be the most emotionally gripping Christmas episode of all time, Arnold's Christmas. On a beautiful winter day with snow scattered about, we see the kids of PS 118 run out of school as the bell rings to dismiss them for winter break. We see Phoebe and Helga walking down the street while Phoebe shares how thankful she is for all the beautiful Christmas decorations around town. She asks Helga what her favorite part of Christmas is.
The presents! I'm gonna make a haul this year.
But Helga, Christmas is about giving and sharing, family and friends, holiday spirit.
Oh, come off your high horse, sister. Christmas is about presents. It's about getting as much stuff as you can possibly get. It's about money and flash. It's about shopping like a barbarian. It's about getting yours before the other guy gets his. It's about dropping hints, making lists. Christmas is about snow boots.
Helga runs right up to the display for this year's hottest fashion statement, the Nancy Spumoni signature snow boots. Hand riveted and made with imported leather, Helga says that she just has to have them. Just then, Rhonda walks up to point out that same goes for literally every other girl in town. She says that the stores are practically sold out.
I'll get my boots, Rhonda Lloyd. I've been dropping hints to my parents for weeks, and they better not blow it, or I'll show them some holiday spirit.
It's a rather small thing, but fun fact, this scene right here is actually how Rhonda ended up getting her last name. At this point, she hadn't gotten one yet, but Helga calling her Rhonda Lloyd as an insult is what cemented her last name being Lloyd. We cut right on over to Arnold and Gerald walking out of a shop. Arnold asks Gerald what he got for his family for Christmas, and he says that he got his dad a tie, he got his brother a tie, and he even got his little sister a tie.
You can't give Kimberly a tie for Christmas. She's a little 4-year-old girl. What's she gonna wear a tie for? Formal occasion. You can't just give everybody a tie for Christmas. Why not? Because Christmas is special. It's about showing the people you're close to that you really care about. When you give somebody a present, it should be unique.
Well, maybe you're right. Maybe I'll give my grandpa the tie I got for Kimberly, and I get her a toy or something.
Now you're getting the Christmas spirit.
Gerald says bye to Arnold, and Arnold asks him where he's going, to which he says that he's got to return Arnold's present, assuming that he got Arnold a tie too. As the two part ways, Helga catches sight of Arnold as she starts talking about how he's such a holiday sap and she hates him.
How I revile his very existence. And yet, I love him. His awkward gait, his half-lidded gaze, his brave, if misguided, concern for those less fortunate. I must find the perfect gift for my beloved. Something big and flashy. Something that'll impress him and make him pine for me the way I pine for him.
Back over at the boarding house, we see Mr. Wynn walking in, with a rather somber look on his face. He walks right into the living room as Arnold's grandma wishes everybody a happy Thanksgiving. They all gather around as they prepare to draw names for Secret Santa.
Go ahead, everybody. Pick a random name from the ball.
Don't tell anyone, but I got Oscar.
I got Oscar, too.
So did I.
What a coincidence.
Kakashka, you bum! You wrote your name on all the slips.
Okay, it was a joke.
Arnold's grandpa scolds Oscar for being a Yuletide prankster, and we see him take over for Secret Santa, having everybody redraw.
Mr. Wynn.
Later that night, we see Arnold, Gerald, and the rest of the kids in the neighborhood having a snowball fight. Arnold confides in Gerald, telling him that he has no idea of what to get Mr. Wynn, and as you'd expect, Gerald suggests that he get Mr. Wynn a tie. Arnold just refuses, saying that's everyone's default gift when they don't know what to get someone. Arnold wants to put some genuine thought into his gift and really make a difference. He tells Gerald that he noticed that Mr. Wynn seems to get really sad near the holidays, so he wants to try to get him a gift that will hopefully help cheer him up.
Well, if you really want to find out what the guy wants, why don't you just go talk to him?
Yeah, I'll just go talk to him. Gather some clues. Figure out what he wants. What a great plan, Gerald!
We cut right on over to Mr. Wynn's living room, where we see him sitting on a stool and talking to Arnold, who's on the couch. Arnold tries to play it cool, saying that he just wanted to check in on him and see how he's doing. Mr. Wynn tells him that he's fine. We see Arnold trying to dig for ideas of what to get him, but the conversation doesn't really get anywhere with Arnold going the roundabout way.
It's almost Christmas time.
Yes, this time of year always make me remember.
Remember what?
It was a long time ago, Arnold. A very complicated story.
I'd like to hear it. Please tell me.
Many years ago, I lived in another country, far away. I was a young man with a family, a beautiful baby girl. I called her Mai.
Mr. Wynn continues to reflect on that time, saying that he was the luckiest man in the world to have such a happy, healthy daughter. He tells Arnold about how late at night he used to dream of their future and seeing her grow up and go to school someday.
But there was a trouble in my country. There was a war in the north, and every day the fighting was coming closer and closer. I knew this would not be a good place for my child to grow up. I could not keep her safe, maybe not even have enough food for her to eat. So I decided we must try to get out. We must try to find a better life. Everyone was trying to get out. Everywhere there was confusion.
Mr. Wynn explains how he made it to the American embassy and the only escape possible was by helicopter. He went atop the building to find a crowd of people all desperate to get out of the war-torn country and begging to get on the helicopter. As Mr. Hyunh begs them to help him find a new life for his baby girl, the soldiers close the door, saying that they only have room for one more person on board. Heartbroken and desperate for help, Mr. Hyunh looks at Mai and holds her close to him for the last time.
I had to make the most difficult decision of my life. I knew I had to do the best thing for Mai. I knew if I gave Mai to the soldier, they would take care of her. They would find a home for her. And then, as soon as I could, I would get out of the country and find her again. As the helicopter left, the soldier called out the name of a city. This city.
Arnold empathizes with Mr. Hyunh, assuring him that he did the right thing, considering that he literally had no other choice. Mr. Hyunh explains that it took him 20 years before he could finally get out of the country, and he came to this city looking for her because that's where he was told they would take her. He's been looking for her ever since, and it's been such a hard battle for him.
Sometimes it is so difficult. I almost give up hope. But I never stop thinking about her. I will never stop trying. I would give anything to see her again, to know that she is happy.
We cut to the next day where Arnold is walking with Gerald, who's calling him absolutely crazy for thinking that he could possibly find Mr. Hyunh's daughter. Arnold tells him that this is really important to him and that he really wants to make sure that Mr. Hyunh has a good Christmas. Gerald stresses to him that it's the day before Christmas and that there are tons of people in this city. He says there's absolutely no way that they're going to be able to track down one person in that little time. We then cut right over to Helga, who's digging through a bin at a toy store looking for a good gift to give Arnold. She's struggling because she wants to get him something that's flashy and really big.
A deluxe 240-piece train set, complete with autumn foliage, collapsible bridge, and one-legged Bob, the affable railroad tramp. No, too juvenile. Arnold's too mature for that. Think, Helga, think! What would Arnold want for Christmas?
Here it is.
Here, what is?
I've been on the phone all morning, calling every government agency in town, and everything led me to this place.
Federal Office of Information?
Somewhere in this building is the information we need to find Mr. Hyunh's daughter.
Arnold and Gerald walk through the halls of this building, and they quickly learn that all of the employees are enjoying their annual Christmas party, and no one's really working. Arnold continues on, determined to find someone who's still working at this hour on Christmas Eve. They come across one lone office door that still has the light on. They approach the door labeled Mr. Bailey, Department Supervisor.
Excuse me, Mr. Bailey?
What are you two kids doing here? Nobody's allowed in here. Can't you see I'm busy?
We're looking for a missing person named Mai Hyunh. We think she lives somewhere in the city.
So what do you want me to do about it?
We thought you could find her for us. Please? She was separated from her father by a war. He's a really good guy. He's a friend of mine. I want to bring them together for Christmas.
And what a perfect Christmas present, don't you think, Mr. Bailey?
He tells the boys that their story has touched him deeply, but finding Mai would be a massive job and would probably take days. He tells them that there's no way it's going to happen on Christmas Eve and that they should just go enjoy the party that's happening down the hall. The boys start to walk out of Mr. Bailey's office as his phone rings. Arnold and Gerald overhear him having a conversation with his wife about how it's Christmas Eve and he still hasn't done any of their Christmas shopping because he's so swamped with work. Mr. Bailey promises his wife that he's gonna get the shopping done somehow.
What if Gerald and me did your Christmas shopping for you?
Huh?
What, I'm gonna trust you kids with my Christmas shopping?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, I'm gonna give $300 to a couple of 9-year-old kids.
How else you gonna get it done on time? Mister, I'd do anything to get Mr. Hyunh and his daughter together. I'll do your shopping. You can trust me. I'll come back, no matter what.
Okay, you got yourself a deal. I hate shopping anyway.
Mr. Bailey hands the money over to Arnold and says that if he gets everything on the list back here before closing, then he will try to run a person search for Mai. Arnold takes the list with a huge smile on his face and heads on out to get some shopping done. We get a nice montage of Arnold and Gerald going through the mall and many other places, buying all of the presents and paying to have them wrapped. Everything goes smooth as butter, and we see them finally stop to sit down for a sec as they review their list. At this point, they're both excited to be down to one last item, a pair of official Nancy Spumoni snow boots, clearly unaware of the fact that those are one of the hottest gifts of the year and the stores are sold out of them. As the boys continue on, we see Helga excitedly holding what she believes to be the perfect, flashy, and expensive gift for Arnold.
On Christmas morn, he will unwrap my gift. His little heart will fill with joy. His little eyes will find the attached tag to Arnold from Helga, and his uniquely football-shaped head will fill with thoughts about me, Helga Pataki, and perhaps then those same thoughts will lead him to feel the same admiration and, dare I say it, love for me that I have so long and secretly harbored for him. This truly must be the meaning of Christmas.
Just then, Helga turns around and she sees Arnold and Gerald walking straight towards her. They say hi to her and they ask her what she's getting. She shows them the game that she's buying and she asks if they think someone would be really impressed if they got that gift. To which Gerald explains,
Well, I don't know, Helga. Basically, it's kind of an expensive, flashy gift that isn't really personal and doesn't necessarily express any real feeling or understanding of the person you might be giving it to. No offense, Helga.
Gerald, we better get going. Merry Christmas, Helga.
Nancy Spumoni snow boots?
After that, we see Arnold and Gerald asking a guy in a shoe store about Nancy Spumoni snow boots. He tells Arnold to hang on for a sec, and he ends up coming back with a few other employees.
Go ahead, kid. Tell us what you want.
A pair of Nancy Spumoni snow boots. I don't get it. What's so funny?
We've been sold out of those boots for a month. But in all seriousness, if you want to put your name on a waiting list, I could get you a pair by, say, the 4th of July.
The employees all laugh Arnold and Gerald out of the store, and we get a montage of them feeling defeated as they go from store to store, getting laughed out of the building every time. Arnold ends up looking at a nearby clock tower, noting that the government office is about to close and that they're out of time. Gerald says they just need to go back to the office, tell Mr. Bailey that they couldn't find the boots, and hope for the best.
No snow boots? Look, kid, we made a deal. You get everything on the list, and then I find your missing person.
But we tried. We looked everywhere.
We must have looked in over 100 shoe stores.
Listen, boys. My wife specifically told me to get Nancy Spumoni snow boots for our daughter. I gotta have those snow boots. No snow boots, no deal.
The boys walk out of the office sad as Mr. Bailey answers another call and continues on about his work. Arnold and Gerald sit down at a nearby bench, feeling broken down and defeated. Arnold admits that he feels like he blew it. All he had to do was get a pair of Nancy Spumoni snow boots to Mr. Bailey at the federal office, and he would find Mr. Wynn's daughter, but it's no snow boots, no deal. He tells Gerald that he's really thankful to him for sticking by his side through all of this, like a true friend.
I needed a miracle, I guess.
You did all right, man. You tried harder than anyone else I know. All for Mr. Wynn, a guy who's alone in this country. The stuff you did is more important than a bunch of presents. It's more important than some dumb snow boots. What you did, that's what Christmas is all about, Arnold.
Thanks, Gerald. Just wish I could have put Mr. Wynn and his daughter together for Christmas.
We then cut over to Helga's house as she returns home to find her parents both singing very obnoxiously as her older sister Olga is playing Christmas songs on the piano. As Helga sits on the couch looking depressed, her mother comes up and asks her if she wants to open an early present to cheer her up. She sits up and opens the box to find none other than a pair of Nancy Spumoni snow boots. We learn that Miriam, in a rather out-of-character act of kindness, stood in line for 18 hours to get those boots. We see Helga and her mother share a heartwarming moment together as Helga gives her a huge hug and thanks her for the boots. Helga then excitedly runs outside to take the boots for a spin out in the snow. She dances around and has the time of her life, having finally gotten the one thing that she wanted more than anything else on her list. She continues to celebrate until she catches sight of Mr. Bailey's Christmas shopping list that fell out of her pocket. She stops dead in her tracks and has to take a moment to dig through her emotions and morals.
Another moral dilemma. Okay, on the one hand, I've got what I wanted for Christmas. I'm happy, and that's really all that matters, right? But on the other hand, I've finally discovered the one perfect thing Arnold wants for Christmas. And through a truly bizarre quirk of fate, it's these same snow boots. I could give them up and give Arnold what he wants, but then I wouldn't have anything. These snow boots are really boss.
As Helga contemplates what the right thing to do would be, we cut over to Arnold, who's laying in bed staring up at the night sky and feeling emotionally drained. We cut over to the federal building where the lights are shutting off for the night and Mr. Bailey is the last person to go home. Helga runs right up to him and gives him her pair of Nancy Spumoni snow boots, telling him that they have a missing person to find. However, he refuses, saying that he's going home because it's Christmas Eve. We then hear Helga contradict everything she said in the beginning of this episode, telling Mr. Bailey that Christmas isn't about snow boots, presents, or getting yours before the other guy gets his. It's about showing people that you care, and most of all, it's about a funny little football-headed kid who's got a good heart and his entire worldview is at stake. Mr. Bailey says that it's late and that he's going home now.
For pity's sake, are you that cold? Look into your heart, and we've got a choice here. Either you and I work all night to find a certain lost daughter, or you can leave now. But if you leave now, that little football-headed kid will never believe in miracles again.
We then cut over to the boarding house on Christmas morning. Everyone full of cheer, save for Mr. Wynn and Arnold, who's sitting sadly nearby when Gerald comes up and wishes him a Merry Christmas. Grandpa finishes handing out presents to everyone, including a new hammer for Ernie and a bag of coal for Oscar. However, the Yuletide joy seems to come to a halt when everyone realizes that there isn't a gift for Mr. Wynn under the tree. Mr. Wynn is quick to brush it off, saying that it's okay and that he doesn't need a gift. Arnold sadly gets up and walks over to Mr. Wynn, saying that he has something to tell him. Just then, his sentence is interrupted by a ring of the doorbell.
I'm coming, lousy Yuletide pranksters.
Can't believe it.
For the first time in over 20 years, Mr. Wynn holds his daughter in his arms, in awe that she's really there. With a huge smile on his face, Mr. Wynn introduces his daughter to his new boarding house family as Arnold wishes him a Merry Christmas. Arnold talks to Gerald, just bewildered at how it happened. He says that it doesn't make any sense.
Don't try to make sense out of it, Arnold. A miracle's a miracle, and that's all there is to it. Maybe you got a Christmas angel looking out for you or something.
Christmas angel. Yeah, maybe.
Merry Christmas, Arnold.
I gotta be honest with you guys, this ending really hits me a lot harder than it did years ago when I made that last video about this episode. Seeing Helga standing outside of Arnold's house, wishing him a Merry Christmas in the end, was just the final gut punch that this episode really needed. At this point in the series, we didn't have as much established lore and understanding of Helga as a character. However, knowing what we know now about Helga, her upbringing, and how her parents treated her during her early childhood, this act of kindness towards Arnold just lands completely differently. In the Dark Side of Hey Arnold video I made about Helga, I went in great detail about her upbringing and how at a very sensitive and formative time in her life when she felt like no one cared about her, Arnold was the only one to show some care and compassion for her. She had the sad and unfortunate experience of hitting rock bottom as a preschool-aged child, feeling like her parents cared about her sister more as they were too busy fawning over her to take Helga to school and make sure that she was dry and safe. During that time though, Arnold was the sweet little boy who not only shielded her from the rain, but complimented her on her outfit. I dive into it a lot more in depth in that video, but more or less, he was pretty much the first person to see Helga for who she truly is before she felt the need to put on this big tough bully persona. With that added context, it makes the gesture of her giving up her favorite Christmas present for him a truly meaningful one. That, combined with the fact that she also did it in secret. Arnold has no idea how it happened. He has no idea who did it, and to Helga, that's okay. Because for her, she realizes that it's not about getting the glory of having done this. For her, this is a lot bigger. In Helga's mind, doing things like this for Arnold to preserve his worldview is largely about preserving that innocent, sweet little boy who saved her during her time of need. Unfortunately, her worldview was skewed a long time ago. However, her meeting Arnold was a much needed light in her life. Naturally, she doesn't want his light to fade, so she does everything she can to preserve his positivity and not to have his worldview end up skewed like hers was as a result of her being neglected as a young child. What's definitely worth noting though is that this light in her life is something that continues to shine all throughout this series. In this episode, we see that same light light up her life in the sense that it altered her perception of Christmas. Throughout this episode, we see Helga struggle to pick a present for Arnold because she's thinking like herself and not putting herself in his shoes. She immediately jumps to get a flashy toy or a super expensive video game. However, if she would just stop for a sec and put herself in Arnold's shoes, she would know that's not what he wants. However, through the process of her following Arnold and eavesdropping on his conversations, she was able to put the pieces together of what he was doing, and that made her stop and consider Arnold as a person as well as his character. Through that process, she would learn the true meaning of Christmas. At the start of the episode, we would hear her talk about how it's all about the gifts and getting yours before the other guy gets his, but by the end, she's telling Mr. Bailey that Christmas is really about caring for other people and that gifts don't matter. It's an interesting concept to digest because throughout this episode, we would hear Arnold trying to teach Gerald this same lesson due to the fact that he was buying everyone ties for Christmas. He explained to Gerald the true meaning of Christmas, and it got to the point where, ironically, Gerald was the one explaining to Helga in the store that her idea of getting a video game was really shallow and seemed like a gift bought just for the price tag. However, whereas Gerald had to be explained that lesson, Helga was able to learn it just by simply perceiving Arnold and trying to help him accomplish his goal in secret. It was like a breath of fresh air seeing Helga come to that conclusion on her own through her own actions in helping Arnold. All of this is obvious, I know, but it just really warmed my heart. This episode is one that's really heavy on the emotions, and Helga's part in all of it just really felt like a big glowing positive that I wanted to address right out the gate because it's gonna get a lot harder from here if I'm being honest. This episode is a really somber reminder to hug your loved ones close, especially if you're a parent. If there's any message I could choose to spread in this video, it's not to take your life for granted even when things get really hard. There's a lot going on in the world right now. A lot of people are struggling worldwide. We go through hardship, and just because someone else's hardship may seem worse than yours, that doesn't make your struggles any less valid. We're all in this boat together, and though life can get really hard, it's crucial to take a second to think about what you have to be thankful for. The holidays can be a really hard and sensitive time for a lot of people. If you aren't able to physically hold your loved ones close, or if you don't have loved ones for whatever reason, I want you to know that I'm really happy that you're here. I'm happy that I have the opportunity to talk with you and reflect on this episode with you, and I appreciate you being here, and I hope that watching this video is able to help spark some joy. Personally, this episode is a hard one for me. I love both of my parents very much, and I value the relationship that I have with them. I've talked about this before in a past video, but my dad has had brain cancer since I was a young kid. He's gone in and out of remission throughout my life, but right now he's going through it really hard. With me having recently moved really far away from him, it makes episodes like this one hurt really bad if I'm being honest. Being separated from a parent is a really hard thing to do, and I miss my parents every day. The depiction of what happened between Mr. Wynn and his daughter in this episode is incredibly heavy. You can tell how much he loved his daughter when he reflects on the life that they used to live in their village. The way he talks about how he would stay awake at night dreaming about their future together just broke my heart. The portrayal of Mr. Wynn's situation, though, is one that was a really sad truth for a lot of people. The reference here being to the Vietnam War, which is known for being one of the longest wars in American history, going from 1955 to 1975. I remember learning about it in school. However, not only was I an irresponsible teenager who was just remembering it to get an A and not actually digesting what I was learning, but learning about this kind of stuff from what teachers can show a whole group of kids in school doesn't have as large of an impact as doing your own individual research online does, in my opinion. A lot of really awful war crimes occurred during this war, and a lot of it is very well documented. There were massacres, terrorist attacks, and even sexual assault on innocent civilians, as well as widespread torture and murder of prisoners of war. There are many famous historical images online of executions, mass murder, and unspeakable war crimes. The one that really broke me, though, is an image that I won't be showing, titled "The Terror of War" by Nick Ut. It's an image that won a Pulitzer Prize for its depictions of how horrific this war was. The image would show a 9-year-old little girl running down the street with no clothes, covered in burns from a napalm strike. This picture would cause waves in the media and was a terrifying expression of how innocent people were suffering and not even children were safe. For context, if you're not familiar, after this photo was taken, the photographer, who was 21 at the time, would take the little girl to get medical attention, and she's now a fully grown adult who keeps in contact with him. But this is just a small glimpse into the horrors of this war that Mr. Wynn was trying to raise his daughter through. The war was ravaging Vietnam, and the timeline of this episode lines up with the fall of Saigon, which was the climax of the Vietnam War. The United States had sent helicopters to rescue South Vietnamese citizens, and there was only so much space. Mr. Wynn knew that his daughter was in danger if she were to continue to live there with him, and unfortunately, this led to him having to make the hardest decision that he's ever had to make. It hurts a lot, and it's a double-edged sword because, honestly, Mr. Wynn is lucky for having the option to make that decision. If he wasn't able to give Mai to those soldiers, she may not have survived. He was saving her life by making that choice, as painful as it was for him. This would haunt Mr. Wynn for years to come. It hurts knowing that he had to sacrifice what was most important to him in exchange for that same thing to continue to thrive. Understanding the context of this war and what he was up against makes his somber staring into the fire hurt so much more. Knowing that he's carrying so much pain inside of him from missing so much time with his daughter just makes the emotional baggage of this episode so much heavier to carry. Now, Arnold's role in all of this is one that really just speaks volumes to him as a person. Arnold is a great person through and through. I'm really happy that he of all people got Mr. Wynn for Secret Santa. Given the history established in the show, we all know that Mr. Wynn has lived in the boarding house for at least a few years now. Other people have obviously gotten him for Secret Santa in the past, and odds are those same people probably got him a cop-out gift like a tie. Or maybe a sweater, considering that he has a whole closet full of them. However, Arnold, on the other hand, isn't a superficial person like that. He's not getting Mr. Wynn a whatever gift just because he was assigned to get him a present. Arnold was set on getting him something that really mattered to him and made a difference. The reason behind that being that odds are Arnold might be the first person to really take the time to actually notice Mr. Wynn struggling and how sad he gets at this time of year. If not that, the only other explanation I can think of is that everyone else notices that he's sad, but they choose to not try and talk to him about it because they just don't know what it's like. They know that he's the kind Vietnamese man who immigrated here in the 90s, and that's about it. Odds are they can assume that he struggled surviving in a war-torn country, however, none of them have been through anything close to that, so they don't know how to approach it. The only one who's experienced anything even remotely close to that is Grandpa Phil, who was a World War II vet, and that's literally the smallest thread of understanding, considering that he was actually fighting in the war that his side ended up winning. Mr. Wynn, on the other hand, was an innocent civilian affected by the war, so of course, even Grandpa Phil would likely have trouble relating to that struggle. The fact that Arnold would take the time to not only empathize with Mr. Wynn, but also jump through so many hoops to reunite him with his long-lost daughter really attests to his character. I can't imagine any of this is easy on Arnold either. He struggles with his own version of that kind of pain, considering that his own parents are no longer around. I'd imagine that Arnold wishes more than anything that his parents could come home for Christmas, however, that's unfortunately out of his control. On the other hand, reuniting Mr. Wynn with his daughter is something that Arnold knew could be a reality with enough determination. Arnold taking part in bringing the two together is symbolic in a way. When Helga talked to Mr. Bailey about how him not being willing to help could end up with Arnold not believing in miracles ever again, I feel like that statement was so much bigger than the actual words that came out of her mouth. At face value, yes, Arnold would feel very defeated if he was unable to help Mr. Wynn be reunited with his daughter. But in a way, I feel like Helga recognizes the fact that Arnold being able to witness that miracle for Mr. Wynn gives him hope for his own miracle someday, in the sense that maybe his parents will come back and he'll be reunited with them just like Mr. Wynn was with Mai. To her, this is so much bigger than a man being reunited with his daughter after more than 20 years. This is also about the single light in her life not having his own light dulled. In this episode, there were acts of kindness all around, and it was really heartwarming. However, there was one specific person who was kind of a massive downer through the whole thing, and that's going to be none other than Mr. Bailey. This man is so frustrating. He told them that he would try to search for their missing person when they get back near closing time, which kind of implies that at the end of the day, when they got back, he'll give it a quick try. However, previously he said that it would take days to find her. The inconsistency in his story is really frustrating because I figured if it really took that long, he should probably be working on that while they're off doing his Christmas shopping for him. On that note though, how messed up is that? This guy literally handed $300 over to a couple of 9-year-olds and made them do all of his Christmas shopping around town. Which, might I add, he should have done ages ago. It's Christmas Eve and he's the one who neglected to do any shopping. However, even more messed up than tasking literal children to do his fatherly work for him is the fact that when they did it all, he straight up refused to help them because they were missing one single item. He put it so incredibly black and white that he was basically setting them up to fail from the start. I also couldn't help but wonder if he knew that the boots are sold out. Like, I wouldn't put it past him to make this deal with these kids knowing good and well that they wouldn't be able to get the boots. That way, it's an easy out for him to not have to help them, and he gets all of his Christmas shopping done for him. It's a win-win for him if you look at it that way. Even if that's not the case, he should be a little more understanding if we're being honest. It's not like they didn't get the boots because they forgot. They just simply weren't available, and even if Mr. Bailey himself had done all of his own shopping, he wouldn't have been able to get a pair of the boots anyways. It just felt like they jumped through all of these hoops for him, and he was incredibly ungrateful. They saved him so much time, and he wasn't even willing to say that he would help them after Christmas. Of course, by the end, it's implied that Helga ends up convincing him to do it, but we never really get that happy scene with him coming around to the true meaning of Christmas like we did with the other characters. If there's anything else glaring that really sticks out about this special, it would be the fact that it didn't need magic or Santa to make a big difference. Don't get me wrong, I love Santa as much as the next guy, but a lot of these cartoon holiday specials end up having the plot resolved with a Christmas miracle that can only be explained with Santa's magic. However, this special was very human. There wasn't anything here that was open to interpretation, and there was no unexplained gaps to us as viewers, and that, in my opinion, is a true testament to how great this show did with expressing these regular, everyday kids and their lives. Even in the Christmas episode, where they would be perfectly justified in explaining my showing up as a miracle granted by Santa, they chose instead to make it about the core characters learning lessons and doing nice things for each other. The beauty of this is that to Arnold, this is a true Christmas miracle. He doesn't know how it happened or who granted the miracle, but it happened. For all he knows, it could have been Santa Claus himself. To him, it doesn't matter how. What matters is that Mr. Wynn got to have the best Christmas that he's had in over 20 years. Arnold was willing to do whatever it took to make that happen, and he did literally everything he could. It was heartbreaking to see Arnold so sad on Christmas morning. He felt like a complete failure, which is just so incredibly sad, considering that he spent so much of his time trying to put this together for Mr. Wynn. That scene at the end, where Arnold is left wondering how this happened, was just so incredibly heartwarming. Little did he know, there was a warm soul just outside the door who selflessly gave up the one thing she wanted just to keep his light glowing and to help him grant his Christmas miracle. I have to ask though, what do you guys think? Did this episode bring you to tears like it did for me? Do you look back at this one fondly? Let me know in the comments down below. I always love seeing your guys' feedback. Massive thank you and a happy holidays to my patrons, but especially those in the true 90s kids tier. You all are the absolute best. If you enjoyed this video, then be sure to drop a like and give praise to the YouTube algorithm in hopes that it pushes this video to everyone else. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Peace.